All right, all right. Happy engineer. You know I'm excited about today because it's Q&A time, which means my good buddy and the man behind the magic of how good the Happy Engineer podcast sounds, Daniel Powell is back in the house. Daniel, what's up, man?
It's good to be back again, Zach. Q&A number 5. Here we go. You
Woo!
ready?
I'm loving this number 5 and these episodes have been super fun. I love the questions. I love the energy. So, Daniel, take it away. Where are we going today?
Oh, hey, so at the top of this episode, if I may, Zach, I would just like to pick up this thread that I've been exploring, that we've been exploring in the past 2 Q&As. One last time, that's about intentions and affirmations. Can I beat that drum one more time?
Man, Daniel, you can never beat out the drum of intention and affirmations. Yeah, take me there. Where are we
Okay,
going?
okay. So I agree. And now, full disclosure, I've lost a little ground with my intentions and affirmations. But right after we had that conversation in Q&A 4, I had a peak experience. So here's the situation. I've been reading the 4 Hour Work Week lately and enjoying a lot of the insights in there. One of the things that spoke to me so deeply in there is just about, regulating information that comes into your life and being on a low information diet. So, one of the things I hate is that when I wake up, you've heard that adage, when you wake up, what's the first thing you do? Well, you check your phone and then you pee. So, and I've just been sick. I've been sick of checking my phone, first thing when I get up and just letting information invade that quiet thought
I
space.
get that.
So, inspired by that book, one of the affirmations I came up with was I maintain a low information diet.
Nice.
And for about a week, Zach, I woke up and I fed myself that affirmation. I could not believe how easy it was just to go and sit and have my meditation time just right off the bat. And it was so good. I felt like a freaking superhero, Zach. It was like I'm freaking Batman with his utility belt full of affirmations. And I was just like throwing these out. And I was like, I can actually do what I want and not what like maybe my brain like drives me to do. I'm just fighting against those subconscious things with that affirmation in my utility belt. It was just like, wow, I
Yeah.
really just couldn't believe that it could be that easy to
I
change
love
behavior,
this.
you
I
know?
love this. Daniel's pressing the easy button. This is a great situation to recap, Daniel, because this is what we want to do with our conscious mind. Why an affirmation and setting intention works is we're taking that 5% of the horsepower of our mind, the conscious, and we're using our will. We're using an intention and a proactive an action to take the 5% and influence the 95%, the automatic systems, the subconscious, the patterns, the habits, the behaviors that are holding us back. So when you wake up and you choose to speak that out, that I maintain a low information diet, the 95%, your subconscious, is always paying attention. And so it's hearing that signal and saying, oh, is that true? Is that right? What would that look like? How do we show up to life in a low information diet way and make it easy for Daniel to perform in that way? And you experienced it. Let's really quick talk about that feeling of coming off the bandwagon, though, because I know everybody can relate to this. I've had, oh, Zach, I went a whole month and then I went a week and I got a little off the train. And like, how do you get back on it? Or we beat ourselves up a little bit, or in many cases, we never get back on the train. So I'm curious, Daniel, where are you at in that journey? Do you feel like you're on the downslope? You're
I
in the
got to be honest
trough? Are
with
you
you,
coming
Zach. So
back?
when I came up with this theme, this was when I was waking up that one week that I really did it. That was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, right? And then you had Christmas and all that. It's just been, not very intentional living since then, maybe I should say, or intentions in different places. So coming off the bandwagon, I've been off for a while.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for being honest, man. And we can all relate to this, whether it's
Yeah,
exercise or
yeah.
affirmations or any habit that you're seeking to build to better your life. We can all relate. I can relate. So here's what I want you to do. First thing, make sure you forgive yourself for falling off the bandwagon. It's okay. right? It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a person who lacks willpower or anything like that. You're human. You fell off the wagon. It's all good. So forgive yourself. Number two is reflect back on the experience. Go relive that peak. Go relive that easy button week of low information diet and remind yourself consciously how good it was for you to speak that affirmation out, to execute on that morning routine the way you wanted to. Let's bring that emotion back into your psychology. Let's relive it. You've tasted it, you've seen it. We want to go back and taste it again. And we do that just in our mind's eye, right? Let's relive it a bit and then make one small commitment. It's not about, I'm going to do this for the next 90 days perfectly and I must do that. Like I'm going to bite off this big chunk of change, just the smallest possible commitment. So tomorrow morning, one time. Let's just get tomorrow right. And then from there, if it works again, if you're enjoying it, you could go one more day. You can go one more day. Tiny habits,
That's
BJ
great
Fogg.
advice because I'm
Yeah,
like, I want that back in my life, but it's like, oh man, I got to start doing that every day. But yeah, just the choice for
one day,
tomorrow. I
just
think I
one
can
day.
do that. I
All right.
think I can do that.
Daniel, is that a commitment? You want to make a on the air commitment? Are you going to do that tomorrow?
I'm going to do that tomorrow, Zach.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Perfect. A little coaching me. I can't help myself. We got to get some accountability in the house for Daniel Powell.
Well, I was just so impressed about just what we talked about in our previous Q&A, how making that change. You think I want to stay away from my phone. So it's like, well, let's focus on the phone. Let's focus on the behavior that we don't want to do, but not focusing on the behavior or even the object that I'm trying to stay away from, but really zooming out and just making a positive focus
That's right.
on the result that I actually want to see in my life. And it was just like, what? How is that easy? How is it that easy? So
Yes. Yeah. And good point. It's not, the affirmation is not, I don't look at my phone in the morning.
yeah.
That's not an affirmation. That's
that has
looking
never
at what
worked
you
for me.
don't
I have
want.
told myself that so many times. Never
Exactly.
works. Never
You're
works.
focusing on exactly the thing that you don't want when you do that. So when you've switched that around to say, well, what do I want? I want to live alone. So it's a great example, man. I love it.
All right, Zach. Well, we got some great questions to dive into today. But first, as always, hit me with some wins.
Oh, man. We've got so many amazing stories I could tell today, but I'll highlight three people who really have stood out in terms of their willingness to get out of their comfort zone and go after something that when we met felt unachievable to them. And that lights me up. That gets me out of bed in the morning, Daniel. So I want to shout out Frank. Frank has been leaning into that next level of leadership, taking his ability to speak in public, to connect with strangers, to take those little actions that are not related to the technical skill sets, but the soft skills, the relationship and social intelligence, emotional intelligence. And Frank just scored a huge opportunity to be a project manager on the entire program for a new award, new project that was bid by his company. And what's cool is he took the initiative to go build the relationship, to create the project scope, to put the bid together for his company to go win this business. And he told his leadership that if we win this, I'd like to ask for the opportunity to be the lead project manager, even though that's a big stretch and role from what he's doing today. And they won the business, and the leadership said, hey, you took the initiative, you asked for this, you got it. So huge shout out to Frank. Amazing what he's doing. Mallory, she was unhappy. She was disappointed with her career, didn't know what direction she wanted to go. And in just 60 days, found her purpose, created a new vision, went out, found a new role, had the courage to walk away from her previous gig and start something brand new. She just began her new role. So Mallory, go get them. You are going to crush this. I'm so proud of you. And it's not just about big titles, big paychecks and career, Daniel. I want to shout out John. John, you know which John I'm talking about. There's a lot of Johns out there, but John just left us a video testimonial that's going to go on the website soon, where he shared that he had an internal shift, a transformation from the inside out from this work that he's been doing with our team and our clients here at Awaco. He is happy for the first time in a long time. He feels that energy, that surge of life. What's so cool is nothing changed on the outside. He's working at the same company, married to the same beautiful woman, has his firstborn son in his life, but he has changed. And that is inspiring. And it's just as hard as getting a new job is to transform yourself from the inside out. So, John, thanks for leading the way. It's amazing to be your coach.
I got to follow up on that and say, because the inside has changed, the outside will,
Oh, you're so right. You're so right.
Let's get into our questions here, Zach. Question number 1 comes from Parul, and she is a software engineering manager. And here's her question. Zach, I am looking for a new opportunity in my industry. What are the most important things you recommend that I update on my LinkedIn profile so that I stand out from the crowd, especially given the number of recently laid off engineers?
Really important asterisk on this question. Always an important question, but at the time of this recording, so Daniel, it's late January 2023, and yeah, there's been significant announcements around layoffs and challenges for a lot of people. So, Parl, great question. And really quick before I address that, it's a really tactical question, which is probably good, Daniel. You know how I like to play in the more theoretical and philosophical topics sometimes, which is useful, but we tell all of our clients at Oeco, you don't change your life in the general. We change our lives in the specific, really getting into the details and being clear. But before I answer the question about a LinkedIn profile, I do want to zoom out for just one moment and address the heart of the question, which is, what do I need to do to stand out and get a new opportunity, to be recognized, seen, noticed, given a chance? Well, what do I need to do there? And I think it's important to remember first that your LinkedIn profile, which is in essence a digital resume, an online footprint of yourself, but also your written resume, these two pieces of your job search toolkit, you're not going to get a job because of your LinkedIn profile. All right, your LinkedIn profile will not land you a job. Your LinkedIn profile will potentially prevent you from getting an interview if it's not good. So sometimes we can over-index on wanting a perfect profile or a perfect resume and invest way too much stress and time and energy into nitpicking every little detail because we want our LinkedIn profile to do all the hard work of landing us a new role. And the truth is, that's not what's going to happen. But at the same time, I respect the question and we need to address it, because if your LinkedIn profile or your resume is below average, if it's below par and someone sees it, that can absolutely block you from getting to that next step and landing the conversation or the interview. So with that context, our profile needs to be good, but it's not about perfect, because you're not going to get a job because somebody said, wow, did you read her about section on LinkedIn? We have got to hire this person. It was just the best written about section I've ever seen. Like, I have never met the hiring manager on the planet who has told me that was their decision criteria. So that said, Daniel, I'll just maybe go top to bottom what comes to mind first for me and the things that I've seen work. I'll be quick and tactical. Maybe you can interrupt me if I'm moving too fast. But there's 5 or 6 things that come to mind right away when I think about a great LinkedIn profile. And the first one is number one, and it's the highest importance in my mind by a margin. I'm curious, actually, Daniel, if you could guess what I'm thinking, because to me, this is a no-brainer, most important thing on your profile. What do you think it's going to be?
Profile picture.
Picture. Daniel, you and I are cut from the same cloth, man. 100%. So don't mess around with low res, bad lighting, out of context, full body profile pictures. Your face needs to consume the majority of that frame, shoulders and up. So it's not a full body photo, so that it really is zoomed in and they feel like they're an arm's distance from you. Imagine somebody's just standing right there looking at you. Look right at the camera, so there's eye contact with that person who's opening up that image. Great lighting, you at your best, do your hair, shave, whatever you need to do, get a professional photo and in a professional context. So I know you love fishing. I know you love hiking. I know you love playing video games, whatever it is, Don't put a photo of you fly fishing in Montana, which is super fun and you may love to do, if the career that you're in pursuit of is software development at Amazon. It doesn't make sense contextually, and subconsciously it breaks some of the belief and rapport that we want to create immediately with that photo. So please, please, please take that seriously. And it doesn't mean you have to hire a professional photographer. I mean, an iPhone or an Android phone, these cameras are fantastic. It's just be intentional about getting something that's really well cropped and put together, you at your best. So
I'm going to
that's
say
number
hire a
one.
professional photographer, because
Yeah.
even when I go out and intentionally try to set up a good photo, me nor my wife have that capability. So
I I mean, I agree, Daniel.
a
If
good
somebody has
professional
the
photographer at
resources to
that.
do it, definitely do it. I mean, mine are
Yeah.
professional. Most of
Yeah.
my clients choose to go get professional photos, but I just want to let people know if you're concerned about the
Yeah.
budget or whatever, you don't have to, but bring the best game you can. And it's worth investing a couple $100 to go get a single headshot taken by a pro. That's number one by far and away for me. The second most important piece is a toss up for me between the banner image, because the visual element of your profile is so gripping, but I'll also contend with your main headline or the title under your headshot. Those two are both really important, but I'll pick the title because that text is indexed and important for the LinkedIn search algorithm, and your relevancy in a sales navigator search by a recruiter, or how LinkedIn associates your profile to others. And we want to make sure that we're optimizing around that. So here's the thing I would recommend. When you look at that main title, there's a couple of keys. The first is to remember that the beginning of what you write, those first, I think it's maybe 8 to 10 words. I don't remember the exact character count, Daniel, but those first few words are the most important, because that's all that shows when somebody sees your name pop up in the news feed or in their inbox when they see that it's from you. LinkedIn allows you a lot of characters and you can play a bit with that main title. The first few words are the most important ones, because that's what people will see as you're engaging on the platform. So keep that in mind. The second thing that I'll highlight here is it's really useful to match the title that you describe to the title of what you're looking for, if that is true. So it's very common where two companies may have a slightly different way of describing a similar role. There's a many industry standards out there for sure, but I'll give you an example, Daniel. One of the roles I held at Whirlpool Corporation as an engineer back in the day was what we called a tech lead, a technical project lead. But now it's called a system integrator. Which one should I use? Should I put it in as tech lead or put it in as system integrator? Well, if I want to move into an industry or a specific company, even where the role and title on the job description that I want to apply for is senior system integration, then I would definitely want to use system integrator as my main title to create an immediate connection there. Now, you may not always have that luxury, because you're not going to go lie. Okay. Don't hear me out. Don't put a title that's not true. But if there's flexibility for you to match it to your destination, to the target of the role you want, that's really useful. Because again, think about the recruiter or the hiring manager who's looking at your profile. We don't want them to have to jump through hoops or connect the dots as to whether or not you're a good fit to interview. We want it to be right in their face, really simple, really easy. So that's a little tip. And then the other tip I'll give on this, and Daniel, you've probably seen profiles like this, is I like putting something personal, fun, and maybe even a little bit intriguing, or something that catches my attention along with my job title. So I'll just use myself as an example here. I talk on my title about what I do here at Awaco as a coach, and I have CEO and career coach on there, but I also have lover of happy hour. Okay, now it's a play on words for me, because I do a free training every month that's called Happy Hour with Zach, and it actually is related to the business. It's engineering career coaching, and happy engineer out there, if you're listening, you can come join us for some free live training. So please sign up. It's in the show notes. Do it. But it's also kind of a funny thing, because happy hour is going out getting drinks with friends, right? So when people see that, it's just like, oh, that's kind of funny. What is that? Maybe they don't even know about the event yet, and they get curious, like, why would he put something about going out drinking on his profile? Like, that doesn't match with what I see here, and it draws them in. So a little edgy even for some people. Think about your life. What's something that you love, maybe a passion or a hobby, something that you could create a fun little saying about yourself that's unique and interesting that would catch somebody's attention. It makes you feel like a human and not just another, engineer signing up for the role. And you're like a line on that spreadsheet of the other 100 engineers the recruiter has seen that day. So let me stop there. I don't know, Dan, is that,
Hey,
am I making
that's
sense?
that's great, and it allows you to be a multi-dimensional being rather than just,
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
number. And
exactly.
there's that like classic sales thing, right? Of if you're in somebody's office making a sales call and you notice a picture of them fishing, talk about fishing,
That's right.
what little
That's right.
like mine that information. So that just
100%.
that opens up that relational connection, just like you said.
So let's walk down that rabbit trail really quick. I know,
Yeah.
Parl, your question's about LinkedIn, but I think everybody needs to hear this. It's really important in the process of interviewing and job searching and just networking in general that you get to know the other person and allow the other person to get to know you in more than one dimension of life. The hobbies, the passions, the interests. When you can do that, here's what happens. In your mind, psychologically, we categorize everything. The subconscious loves to have these filing folders and label things and put words and labels on what something is to help us make sense of the world around us. Well, when you're an engineer applying for a job, you fall into one bucket in that person's mind. An engineer, technical, this is a career thing, it's professional. And I have my filing folder for people who are in that category. But if you and I talk about fishing, well, who else is in my file folder about fishing? My friends, my neighbors, my family, people who I've had great memories with. It's associated with all these other really wonderful memories in my life. So your name and picture, that beautiful profile picture that you had professionally taken, okay, are now categorized in both places. So I have you down in my engineering folder, but in my mind, you're also in my fishing folder. And the fishing folder is full of all these other people, guess what? Who I know, like, and trust. And so it's so important that you get to know and allow other people to get to know you in more than one dimension in all these contexts, because it immediately elevates, call it net trust in that person's subconscious mind. So it's really, really powerful to do this. Let's keep going. I mentioned
Yeah.
banner image.
So were there three more
I've only
topics?
covered two officially. The third is banner image. Here's all I'll say here. Don't waste that real estate. It kills me when I log into somebody's profile or click into someone's profile, Daniel, and it's the blank LinkedIn swirly color thing. They haven't even loaded one up. It's like, oh my goodness, you haven't even taken the time to finish your profile. I mean, that's a big demerit in my mind. So put something up there, but make it relevant to your career pursuit. So we're talking about Montana and fly fishing. Let's just keep pulling that thread. Don't put a banner image of a mountain lake with people fly fishing around it, because that doesn't make sense. You're not applying for a job as an expedition guide. Like it's not relevant. So a lot of people say, oh, but Zach, it's one of my passions. I want to share something. I get it. But remember, put yourself in the shoes of that hiring manager or recruiter. We don't want them to have any distractions that pulls them away from the point at hand that this person could be great for the job. And that real estate is important that it's aligned with that primary aim. So little teasers and little ways to get to know you belong in that headline, in your about section, but not in the primary visual real estate of your profile. Use words too, by the way. It doesn't have to just be a picture. Have a graphic designer, hire someone on Fiverr or someplace, and make an image that has some descriptions about that role or those titles or those things that you want to accomplish in your career. That can be really powerful as well. 3 more quick ones. Parl, I know you're trying to get ready for your new opportunity. So here's the last 3 I'll remind you. Your about section, don't just repeat your resume there. That is a unique part of your profile. where you can actually share what makes you unique. Why do I want to talk to you instead of someone else? Your passions can come through. The things you care about can come through. Your values can come through. Your mindset can come through. Maybe even a great little story about something you've done or you're proud of that can help me get a sense of who you are as a person. Don't waste that about section by repeating all of the things that you've done, because there's a whole section called experience, and the person's going to ask for your resume soon enough and they're going to get that piece. So really think of that as your opportunity to present who you are as a person in the about section. Third piece, or sorry, this will be number 5 now of my next 3. I'm on number 5, I think.
I was going to say.
I know. Where do you get back to 3? This guy, he can coach, but he can't count. What do you know? That experience section, this is where I recommend people to bury all those keywords. A lot of times folks put literally a paragraph at the bottom of their about section that says, keyword bank, : and they just list all the, not a fan of that personally, because I'm kind of distracted as somebody looking to say, oh, they're just trying to win the algorithm. These might not even be true. Like what's going on here? And they're out of context. So within the experience section of your profile, to me, is a great place where you can make sure that you're hitting all of those keywords. Of course, you can put them other places, but that's an important spot. And make sure it's complete and accurate, by the way. The number of times I see a LinkedIn profile that has an incomplete experience section, or they're just poorly crafted, is too common. So Parl, make sure that you take the time, put in the most important content. And again, you want to go back to your previous experiences and tailor what you've written to the opportunity that you want next. Just because you had that role a decade ago doesn't mean that you leave the description of what you accomplished in that role for all eternity. You can go back today and rewrite that experience in the context of how that experience has prepared you for where you want to go in your career. So go back and look at those again. And then last piece, go get recommendations. Go get recommendations. I think it's a really useful function of the LinkedIn profile where somebody can, if they scrolled that far, this is one of my beefs about LinkedIn, the recommendations are way at the bottom. Whereas Amazon's, customer reviews, 5-star ratings are right there in your face. LinkedIn keeps that recommendation section down at the bottom. But here's the thing, Daniel, if they've scrolled that far, you've kept their attention that long, why not finish on a high note? We've talked before about the peak end rule on this podcast, and I won't talk in detail about the psychology of that, but if they get all the way to the bottom of your profile and then they see 20 or 30 recommendations from past colleagues and bosses and people you've worked with, now they have this exclamation point at the finish line of looking at your profile that says, wow, this person has a lot of folks who respect them and have had positive things to say about them. Let's go ahead and get them on a call. So there you go. Top to bottom, Parl. If you knock those out, you're going to be way ahead of the crowd.
All right. Well, hey, we spent a lot of time on that. That's a great place to spend time because that's a resource that everybody uses. Let's hit those bullet points again. I think there were 6, maybe even 7 or 8 with the rabbit trails we take. So break it down for us. Number 1, photo. Number 2, the about section. Make sure those first 8 words.
I would call that one the headline or the title.
Okay.
So number 2 is that headline. Yep.
Number 3, banner. Is that right?
Yes.
Right.
Banner image.
Number 4, about section.
Yes.
All right. And then experience and recommendations.
I love it. 6 points.
Right.
The 6 keys to LinkedIn success. Hey, we should write a blog post, Daniel, or do something. This is a nice little
maybe a LinkedIn post.
check LinkedIn post. You heard it here first on the Happy Engineer podcast.
So Zach, we always got to ask questions on the Happy Engineer. So I'm interested to see what you'll do with this one. What question would you encourage Parul or anybody else wanting to up their game on the LinkedIn profile? What question should they start with?
I would frame the question in the lens of the person who you want to fall in love with that profile. And what I would be asking is, who do I want on my team? That's from the perspective of that other person. And show up as that person, because it's not about what you want, Parl. It's about what the hiring manager wants. It's about what the company wants when it really boils down to who they're going to take the time and energy to interview. Just because you want them to know something about you doesn't mean that's what they want to know. And while our vision as individuals is guiding where we take our energy to go land new roles and opportunities, we still take that and then say, how do I frame this from the perspective of that other party? So, who do I want on my team? But asking it from the lens of that future amazing leader that you're going to support and add value to.
Something that you said to me a number of times is, I don't have the exact wording, but it's not what you know, but it's who you know, or what's your verbiage behind that?
Yeah, yep. We've talked, and this is a book title from the man, amazing leader, Dan Sullivan. It's about who, not how.
That's it. That's it. Okay.
Yes.
So if you know a who, right, somebody that works in that company, that would be a great person to reach out to audit your profile,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
because they know the corporate language, and it helps you connect those little synapses in the recruiter's mind.
Yep. Daniel, let's just put an exclamation point on that with this statement. Parl, I know we went tactical on the 6 keys to LinkedIn profile success today, and I'm glad we did. But zooming back out, at the beginning, I told you you're not going to get a job because of LinkedIn. It might just prevent you from getting interviews. So I'll give you one other principle about job hunting. For every hour you spend on LinkedIn, challenge yourself to spend an hour on the phone with real people as well. So those might be interviews, but if they're not, pick up the phone and dial the people who are in your network, because it's very easy to get trapped in this online universe of looking at resumes on all these different job sites. And you can scrub LinkedIn for ideas and opportunities for days and days and never talk to anybody. So I'm not saying don't get on LinkedIn. It's a great resource. And sending direct messages and connecting with people and posting content is all very valuable. However, I challenge all my clients. This is the same advice I give the people in our program, the Lifestyle Engineering Blueprint. For every hour on LinkedIn you spend looking for a role, spend an hour on the phone. Even if you're dialing friends and family and talking to them about your situation and asking for help. Like, I don't care where we start, but don't rely only on the technology if you want to accelerate your job search.
That's great. Well, wow, we went around the bush, around the tree, and around the corner with that question.
Didn't we though? Oh, it was fun though. Really, that was a good
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah. No, and that was a good place to spend our time today, because our our next question, it's more of a collective question. It just deals with the basic climate that we're in right now. So, you've gotten a question from a lot of different engineers on LinkedIn that have reached out to you, and they're all asking the same question. They're saying, Zach, what's your opinion about all these layoffs that are going on? And what advice do you have for those of us looking for a new role? So,
Yeah, yeah.
everybody out there that's wondering what's going on with these layoffs and, oh, looking for a new role, what do I do?
Yeah, it was funny that Parl's question ended with that little
Mhm.
caveat, because I knew this was coming, and we have been getting a lot of people asking questions, and a lot of folks who've been laid off are reaching out asking for help. And if that is you, happy engineer listening, like, please do reach out. We'd love to support you in any way we can. Dan, did I hear right? The opening part of that question is just, what's my opinion? What do I think about all this?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tricky topic, because first of all, I'm a coach, and fundamentally as a coach, I do my best to keep my opinion out of the conversation and help people to determine what's the best course of action that's aligned with your values and vision and the things you want to accomplish in your life. And it, quite frankly, doesn't matter what I think. It matters about how I can help you reach those goals and reach that vision faster with more happiness and joy along the way. But that said, here's the first thing that comes to mind when I ask, like, how do I feel or what do I think about the climate of layoffs? First thing is I always check myself in terms of facts about what I see in the media and how it's hyped versus what's real. So in this example, how do these layoffs compare to the number and quantity of layoffs in prior down years that cycle through every 2, 3, 4 years in the United States and around the world? Is this something really unique and different and special, or is it just it's been a while since layoffs have been in the news and the media is hyping it up and making it seem worse than it is? I always ask myself those questions before I allow the emotional climate of the media to affect my emotional climate. I want to be an engineer still. I am an engineer. It's like, what's the data? And I don't have those numbers handy. I didn't come prepared today for that. And I just encourage anybody, if you're feeling a lot of anger or fear or otherwise, just make sure that you understand the picture, that you've actually done your own homework and research for yourself what's going on. But the other thing for me, Daniel, is I have a hard time casting any judgment on somebody whose shoes I've not walked a mile in, right? It's like my mom taught me, don't say something about a situation that you can't relate to. And quite frankly, I have no idea what it would be like to be the CEO of Google or Microsoft or one of these giant tech organizations under the kind of pressure from their board of directors and shareholders that they are, and given a charter to go protect the profitability of those organizations, but also protect its people. How do you make those decisions? Wow. It's just hard for me to imagine being in that seat. I've never been in that seat. So I really do reserve judgment because I don't know what that's like. And so I just have deep respect for the work that they do and how hard it must be. And I also remember 12 months ago, Daniel, how happy we all were that they were hiring so many people and how many folks were celebrating that they were hiring. And, would we rather them never do that? It's like, it's really tough, right? Now, that said, I don't want to leave out the fact that I have seen some stories from people who I do trust that things have not been handled with high level of care towards some of the folks who really gave a big part of their life to be on the teams in those organizations. And the way people were let go and how they found out and some of those things definitely leaves me with a sour taste in my mouth because I care so much about people. And I don't know the answer on what's the perfect, most human way to lay off 10,000 plus people at a time. I don't know that there is, if there is a way. But my heart goes out to the folks who are on the receiving end of a really tough situation. So I'll just stop there.
So Zach, what I heard you say there, I'm gonna put some words in your mouth with this.
Okay.
I was gonna ask you about the question, but I think that's very evident here. And that is, what does the data say? First and foremost,
Yeah.
what is actually going on? Is this actually an anomaly, or is it just in the news? That sort of thing.
Well, and I'll add a question because I agree, because
Yeah.
the questions matter. The question to me in a situation like this is, what do I want to do in response to what's happening around me? How will I take responsibility for my part? Life is going to throw things at you that you did not ask for, Daniel. Life is going to give you challenges that you don't want. Life is going to be unfair in ways that you could easily complain about. But my belief fundamentally as a coach is that that doesn't matter. In fact, that's expected. I've never met someone where life didn't present what we would call a failure or a setback or an unfair, unjust problem. It's like, that's a part of the story. So for me, the question is not like, why did that happen to me? Or what's going on about this? Or what's your problem? The first question is, okay, I didn't ask for this, but it's here. So what will I do? How do I want to show up to this challenge? That's the first question for me.
I shouldn't have stepped on the coach's toes.
You got me lit up, man. I think the
Sorry,
data
coach.
question's
Sorry,
important
coach.
too. The data matters because it helps you to inform what you want to do,
Yeah.
right? Is
Yeah.
this a special situation or not? And of course, your unique situation matters. If you're one of the people who just got laid off, you're going to have a different perspective on this than the people who are still employed. I just embrace that spirit of radical responsibility, Daniel, all through. I mean, through and through. I think it's such an important way to live. It creates outcomes instead of being a victim to outcomes.
Yeah. So I'm here. How do I want to respond?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And what was the second half of the original question, Daniel? I forget how you said, what do I think about this? And there was something else.
What advice do you have for me as I go looking for a new role?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So here's the advice. Let's apply the knowledge. Okay. Remember, knowledge is not power. What you hear on this podcast is not power. Daniel, it's what you do with what we talk about that matters. And so let's do something with this. If radical responsibility matters, if taking this into your own heart and mind and making decisions is what matters, here's what I would encourage you to do first. Before you go out and start applying for new roles and talking to hiring managers or recruiters and brushing up your LinkedIn profile with those 6 tips we just gave, the first thing to do is sit down with a blank journal. And I want you to write down just free stream of thought writing. It doesn't matter what it says. It doesn't have to make sense. We're not trying to write an essay here. Just write as you think. Everything going on in your head related to these layoffs. And if you're mad about it, I want you to write down how mad you are. If you're pissed off at your employer for letting you go and it was unfair and unjust, I want you to say all the stuff that you're afraid to say or you just can't say because your mom would make you wash your mouth out with soap if she heard it. Write it all down. I want you to get all that garbage out of your head. And I want you to get all the good stuff out of your head too. It may not all be garbage. Some of it may be really positive, but take a block of time to get everything that you're thinking out of the subconscious, out of your conscious, onto the page and process all of that emotion. Let's just get it out and get to the point where you are ready to go into the workforce or the job market, to enter back into that job market, not as a victim of layoffs, not as a person who's pissed off and angry and frustrated about something that's happened to you, but to come in as a person who says, hey, regardless of what this is that's happened in the past, I am ready now for my next opportunity. And I can't wait to find what it is. And whatever employer hires me next is going to be incredibly glad that they did, because I'm going to go in there and crush it. And I'm going to be the best decision they ever made. And when you can come in with that kind of energy, you're going to stand out from this crowd, this ocean of people that are flooding into the job market right now, who have a chip on their shoulder, who have something to prove, and who have somebody that they're pissed off at because of how this went down. And that energy is going to come through in the way that they talk and in the way that they type up their profiles and resumes, even when they don't mean for it to. So get your heart right, get your head right, and then go full steam. But don't start until you do.
Awesome. I love that. Well, Zach, we are now at my favorite part of the episode here. So you show up every day. You do this work of helping people through their career blocks, inspiring them. And I love hearing what's inspiring you as you do this work. What are the things that you're reading or seeing? What's been speaking to you lately, man?
I am really focused on the ideas that support leadership. What is leadership? How do we grow as leaders? And it's directly related to what we just talked about. And, this is what an entire category at Barnes and Noble all its own, right? Leadership is such a big idea, but the reason it's present is directly related to some of the failures in leadership that have created challenges people are facing, like these mass layoffs right now. And I say failures in leadership. Well, that's pretty harsh, Zach. I thought you said you haven't walked by on their shoes, et cetera. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, it is our job as leaders to make great decisions, to help our teams succeed. And when these things do happen, It may be that no one could have seen it coming. It may be that they made the best possible decisions along the way, but the spirit of radical responsibility, or as Jocko Willink and Leif Babin would say, extreme ownership, which is what I want to share from today, it doesn't take them off the hook from responsibility that this is what happened. All right. Now there's lessons to be learned and new decisions to be made. And so I look at that and say, how do we progress as leaders individually? Because all leadership begins with self-leadership. If you want to be a senior manager in engineering, you need to be able to lead yourself at the senior manager level. If you want to be a director of engineering, you need to lead yourself at an even higher level. If you want to be a CTO or a CEO or start your own company, you need to be able to lead yourself at an even higher level. And so that said, I'll just share a couple of quotes directly out of Extreme Ownership, because I pulled it off the shelf this morning in preparation for our chat here. Just two short lines from the beginning, and then somewhere closer to 2/3 through, I'll just share these ideas. Leadership is the most important factor on the battlefield, the single greatest reason behind the success of any team. That's an impressive statement. Like, leadership is the most important factor to success on the battlefield, which I don't know military the way these guys do. I'm not in the military, but I'm not sure that I would have pegged that before I read this book. So you take that first and then add in this. As a leader, employing extreme ownership, or what I call radical responsibility. If your team isn't doing what you need them to do, you first have to look at yourself. That's the idea I've been working with clients on so much lately. People are asking questions about, this person's not getting it done. That person's not getting it done. This direct report can't keep up. This team member has an attitude problem. They always want to frame it first in the context of what's wrong with that other person. And it's really important as an individual leader within your organization that you first ask yourself, how have I been showing up to that problem? And how am I leading myself and leading the situation and leading that other person? Because again, leadership is the single most important factor to success. And if the people on your team are not getting it done, especially if it's direct reports that you are their leader, that's a reflection on you. And let's look inward first. Let's do the hard work on ourselves first before we make assumptions that it's that person's problem. Because in an environment of powerful leadership, really great leadership, people thrive. People get it done. It's amazing. So ask yourself some questions today about, who am I as a leader? How am I leveling up and leading myself? And where have I been projecting blame onto other people's lack of skill or performance in some way, where the truth might be that I'm just not leading them well?
It's fantastic. All right, Zach. Question and answer number 5 is in the books. We've had some great questions today, some great answers, and then some more great questions in response to those answers.
This one got deep, man. This is really, really fun. I enjoyed these questions and the time relevance of some tough things happening in the economy and in our engineering industries these days. So yeah, I really appreciate Parul and the community on LinkedIn for pushing these forward.
Now, Zach, if our engineers out there want to send in their own questions, tell them how to do it.
Daniel has said it before. I'll say it again. We would love to get those questions in audio form so that we can actually feature you directly here on the podcast. So if that interests you, jump into the show notes, join the Facebook group. You can post it as a video there, or you can get connected directly with me and send a voice memo over. You can email that to me. There's a lot of ways to do it, but just jump into our free Facebook group. It's a great resource for you anyway. Ask the question there and we can grab the audio off of that. And the great news too, we can start that conversation early, get you some answers right away in the Facebook group. But also, you're completely welcome to email me directly, anyone listening, Zach, Z-A-C-H, at oasisofcourage.com. I'd be honored to field those questions. And if I can't reply to the email, just because I got a lot of clients and things on my calendar, we'll save it back and make sure Daniel and I cover it in the next Q&A.
All right, Zach. Well, Q&A 5 in the books. Until next time, man.